poor Fuwatti. You know, these guys probably have some of the hardest journeys out of any mains in a game, just because their character is extremely hard to learn. And I'm gonna say it, Fuwatti is extremely hard to play, or at least play good. Now obviously with a lot of new players, they just see Fuwatti and are like, hey, you know, that's a guy, I know him from AO Oni. Well, there's a very sharp learning curve here. Even though this guy only has 2 abilities, basically only one, this ability is extremely finicky and extremely hard to learn to use properly. But today we're going to be talking about Fuwatti skin stereotypes. So let's just start off with it. These are only stereotypes, they don't apply to everyone, so if you see your favorite skin on here, please don't be butthurt over it, alright? It's just a stereotype and that's what it's most associated with. But next episode, we are doing Baldi, so drop the stereotypes down there, I'll be looking at all of them, and that episode is going to be very weird because Baldi just came free to play, so I think it'll be a little bit more interesting now. But with all that being said, let's get started. Oh boy, where do I start? These guys are just really bad. With Fuwatti's extremely small hitbox, they miss you about 90% of the time, and even when they do hit you, they somehow miss the next 5 hits against you, so you're perfectly fine. These guys have absolutely no idea how their abilities work yet, and will either overuse them to the point where they don't need to, or they will underuse them and just completely throw them to the side. These guys are basically purple slabs of meat that will run to any wall physically possible. You will somehow be directly in their line of sight, and they will still miss their rush ability and smack the wall behind you. Granted, I have no idea how they accomplish this, but they somehow do. If you see a default Fuwatti, honestly, don't think too much of them. These guys are extremely harmless. Believe it or not, these guys actually do exist, and they're actually some of the friendliest guys you can come across. They don't take the game extremely seriously though, because I mean, come on, they're on Fuwatti. Overall though, these guys are basically just as harmless as the normal Fuwattis, so I mean, you don't have to worry about too much. Just these guys are a little bit cooler. The only difference between this and the default one is this guy only somewhat knows what he's doing. Now there are 2 types of Fuwatti players that get to this point. The first is a guy who's about to realize that he never wants to play Fuwatti again and is probably going to go back to his easier killers. And the second type is someone who actually wants to master Fuwatti because he realized that he does have a lot of potential, but you just have to be extremely good at him. And I think this is actually where the split does happen because Fuwatti is extremely weird to learn. Like I mentioned earlier, his physics are so different from a lot of different characters, so it's really weird to learn. Mainly though, with his silly rush being his main ability and with the weird physics on it, most people will drop Fuwatti extremely early on because this is a really hard learning curve. But if these guys make it past this and continue to play Fuwatti, then they'll probably end up being pretty good in the future. You know, I've had someone try to convince me that since this skin is darker, it's harder for people to see you and you can rush them easier, but I just don't believe them on that. I mean, Fuwatti lets out an extremely loud laugh before he even starts running at someone, so you're already at a disadvantage at that point. But most likely, if someone bought this skin, they just didn't want the default skin anymore and settled for a recolor instead of having to pay a few thousand coins for another skin. You like scaring people in this game, but you just didn't have enough coins to actually buy a really expensive skin. But what I will say is that this skin actually is pretty terrifying sometimes. I mean, if you're not expecting it and you turn the corner to this, it actually can be very scary. While these guys are extremely nice and pretty chill, these guys are terrible at Fuwatti. After reading through a lot of different comments, I see this exact trend keep happening. Most people say that he's pretty chill, but don't mention the skill, and to the people that do mention the skill, they say that he is extremely bad. But hey, as long as these guys keep ramming into walls and not into me, I'll be happy. These guys had the decency to give Fuwatti pants, but in all seriousness, these guys probably just like the Killer Bean series and that's why they're wearing this skin. And unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people are going to get that reference. But hey, they gave Fuwatti pants, so I'm not complaining. To pay 900 coins for a common skin is absolutely insane. But these guys most likely like the Joy of Creation maps and the hide and seek map because they try and blend in with the other Fuwattis, even though it is painfully obvious that they are not one of the Fuwattis. These guys aren't bad at the game, but they like memeing around more than anything else, so they're not going to be taking the game too seriously. And if they are taking the game seriously, they can maybe wipe half the lobby, and that's about it. Oh, the commitment is so beautiful. These guys are finally starting to understand how Fuwatti's abilities work, even if they're still kind of missing a lot of the time. But hey, they're finally starting to understand the extremely broken physics of Silly Rush and are starting to get better. They use the Oni vision pretty well to track down different people, and they've gotten a little bit better with this hitbox, but like I've said, they still miss a lot of the shots that they take. Also, they most likely wear the skin because it's pretty clean and kind of shiny. Fine, I'll say it right. Norp is actually pretty chill. These guys don't really take the game too seriously, I mean come on, look at the skin. But you can find these guys slamming into walls, intentionally missing, and just overall trying to have a good time. These guys just like sliding around as Fuwatti and have a fun time doing it. They're not out to kill your entire lobby, and they're just there to have a good time. But yes, I've been pronouncing Norp wrong this entire series, and I'm not sorry for it, it's better the way I pronounce it. Let's get it out of the way. These guys are stuck in 2020, but there actually are a few different reasons that people would use this skin. The first one is obviously Among Us jokes, but you know, that was kind of obvious. The second kind are people that didn't want to drop almost 3,000 coins on another skin that basically is the exact same skin but with accessories. The third type are people that take advantage of the fact that you can't see his arms during Oni vision, so you don't know when he has it activated. But the skill on these guys is kind of a mixed bag, because you can find players that simply just like Among Us, so they decide to buy the skin, or you can find actual veterans of this game wearing the skin because they like the advantages of it. One thing that ties all these guys together is once again they are stuck in 2020. The whole Oni vision thing where they can't see your arms definitely applies here, but these guys are actually really good. They drop 3,000 coins on an exclusive skin and they're going to use it. Most of the time these guys know exactly how to use their silly rush, and these guys are extremely good even with the ice physics of Fuwatti. But the main difference between this skin and the last skin are these guys are just dripped out, and that's about it. You know what, I'm actually kind of curious to see what the fan wiki says about this. Let's just go down, and Fuwatti turns yellow. Thank you so much, FanWiki, you guys are amazing. Technically, while this is referencing a game called Stupid Oni, no one wears a skin and no one's gonna get that reference. You know, I had a Domo plush when I was younger, so I 100% understand why these guys wear the skin. He's just so cute. But don't be fooled, these guys are extremely experienced on the character and can wipe a lot of the lobby. Just because they're cute now does not mean that they lack the skill to wipe your entire lobby. Overall though, these guys are pretty nice and do it in a very respectable way, so it's kinda cool. And these guys also like Little Big Planet, which is extra points. Since this is a festive skin, it's kind of hard to gauge skill on this, but what I can say is that these guys really enjoy the chase theme since it's kind of unique. But these guys could either be extremely good or extremely trash. It honestly all just depends on the player themselves. All that work those Fuwattis just put in just to get this skin right here. I honestly am starting to feel bad for these guys, but if we're going to rate them on skill, these guys are extremely good. Now that they actually understand how the character works and they understand his really bad ice physics, these guys can wipe a lot of the lobby majority of the time. These guys are consistent on maps with long hallways and know how to hit you just perfectly. These guys also know exactly when to use Oni vision as well, but the main part is that these guys are extremely good at silly rush and only miss them about 10% of the time. But maybe if the skin looked better, more people would wear it, because I honestly don't see a lot of gold skins and I can't blame them. I mean, it just doesn't look that good. Despite the name, these guys are extremely good at the game. I mean, they better be after dropping nearly 3,000 coins on this. But these guys are most likely gold or higher and are extremely good. Now in terms of being toxic, this is technically the most toxic Fuwatti skin, but the character Fuwatti honestly isn't that toxic, and most people that play him are extremely nice and don't really talk a lot of trash. These guys are just here to have a good time and relax while killing everyone in the lobby. Now this is another holiday skin, so take it with a grain of salt, but most of the time these guys aren't really that good. These light up skins just don't really help you on darker maps and kinda just give you away a lot more. And Fuwatti needs all the stealth he can get, considering the fact that he already yells out when he's trying to charge you, so basically putting a beacon of light on him kinda just makes it a lot worse. Now I'm thinking about it, actually, Fuwatti doesn't have an RGB skin. I'm actually kinda sad about that now. Well, he doesn't really need it actually, the less lights this guy can have the better. These guys do not take the game seriously at all. I mean, that was kind of obvious by their skin choice and everyone can see it, but I mean, just come on. These guys are pretty funny though and acknowledge the fact of how stupid they look, and they embrace it. These guys enjoy laughing at themselves for ramming into walls and using their abilities wrong. Overall though, these guys are extremely nice and aren't that toxic. It's obviously one of the stupidest looking skins, and that's exactly why they wear it. Jesus Christ, you are hideous. Well, out of the way, these guys definitely played the original game, and that's exactly why they're using this skin. They have a respect for the classics. They like the model of the old skin and will most likely argue tooth and nail that it's better than the remodeled skin. Something about it being quote unquote authentic. Yeah, and you probably think that the book is better than the movie. But in terms of skill, these guys are pretty alright. Well, congratulations, you finally did it. You wasted so many hours of your life trying to get this skin. But hey, at least you're better at Fuwatti now, but in the same time you spent getting him to Diamond, you could have gotten at least 3 other characters to Diamond. This guy fully understands Fuwatti's movement now and knows exactly how to move him correctly to get Silly Rush off every single time. There is no juking these guys, as they will hit you every single time and won't even come close to a wall. Overall though, these guys still do struggle on some extremely open maps, but for the most part these guys can wipe an entire lobby. But seriously, these guys worked so hard for this Diamond skin, it's just not that good, man. I'm so sorry, Fuwatti mains. You guys really got robbed of a lot of good skins. And if for some reason you own all of the skins for Fuwatti, I doubt that's anyone, but you know what? Good for you. That's really all I have to say. If you're willing to grind that much on a character like this, then I don't even know what to say. But you know what? That was all the skins for Fuwatti, and genuinely hopping back on this character after several months of not wanting to go onto him, it was actually a lot of fun and refreshing. Fuwatti is very finicky, and that's why I think he takes a lot of skill, and honestly I just really don't want to learn it that badly. But I do respect the people that actually do main Fuwatti, because he is a really fun character if you actually learn him. I would also like to thank everyone who commented on the last video helping me with Stereotypes, and you guys are honestly awesome. This series is not possible without you guys, so I just want to thank you guys so much, and you guys are just genuinely amazing. That's all for this video. I hope you guys have a really good day, and remember, Baldi's next, so drop those in the comment section below, and I'll be reading them all.